Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be building this Victorix Chariot. Okay, I'm actually really excited for this one. Obviously Chariots came out in the Bayonet Kings book that I did a video for, and I thought, well, I've got a halfling chariot on the way, but that's coming all the way from Italy. I was a bit impatient and I kind of fancied a human chariot too. So this is, as I said, the Victorix one. I believe they come 3 to a box, but I just bought the one sprue off eBay. So I don't think I've got some of the command options. But I've certainly got enough. And I found some instructions online on how to build this. So you get a few options. You get a couple of sides and a couple of different drivers, and a couple of different people for the back, as well as some good little options here, some little bits and pieces. As I said, I found the instructions online because there's actually quite a few little bits that I'm going to have to try and work out how they all go together with each other. And some of the bits didn't fare too well being posted as a single sprue, but that's more on me for cheaping out and just buying the one sprue than anything else. One thing I have noticed already is the size of the horses, or I should say ponies. I guess ponies is probably more accurate. I don't know my historical accuracy too much, but certainly in the scheme of my army, these guys are much closer to the halfling ponies that this guy's riding than the human sort of cavalry, but that's fine because there's going to be a whole bunch of different ponies in my army, so they'll fit in quite nicely. As for the riders, I was thinking about using some of the bits and pieces from my Oathmark just to try and tie it together, but actually I quite like this cavalry driver's pose here. And he comes with the mixes with the reins that aren't broken, which is handy. One thing I will say is that these guys are a little bit taller than my Oathmark humans, so that's kind of interesting. They're also that little bit more sort of, I think, realistically proportioned, and like smaller hands. But once again, I think because this is a woman, you got the sort of slightly finer features and hands, and it should actually play into that quite well. Though I am still kind of tempted to change the champion, the rider. We'll see. But I'll definitely use this guy, even if I use a Oathmark head, which I think is what I'll do. Anyway, enough faffing around. Let's get this put together, shall we? Okay, so I think the general construction of this is fairly straightforward. They've been quite clever with the horses, in that the two ones with bases are on opposite sides, which means that they can only go together one way, so you don't get confused there. And then we've got a little wicker base that goes there. We've got very specific little pegs and slots that the sides slot into, and then our crossbar slots. So if these things go to the back, it goes there, and that goes under there. We've got the wheels on the sides, and then we have a wonderfully ornate little crossbar which slots in on top, I think, like that, which will then rest on the horse's shoulders. So it's all quite fiddly, it's all quite small, so I'm going to pay attention and get down to it and see what it looks like put together. Okay, so I've got the first side panel in, and that took longer than I expected. I had to just take my little 1mm drill bit and widen out these holes, and I also had to spend some time just making sure that there was not too much mould lines on the edges of these panels. I really should clean these things up before I put them together, but I tend to do it the other way around. I tend to put them together and then clean up any visible mould lines, but no, it's quite important with this kit, I've seen, to get that pristine before we try and put it together. And it is a bit fiddly to get these two little pins in and then that slot in the side. But once again, when you think about it logically, there's only one way it can go together properly. And it fits so neatly that without any glue, that would, you can pretty much leave it like that. I will be gluing it, and I'm just using plastic glue. But I certainly wouldn't recommend this as a beginner kit. It is somewhat faffy. In fact, I can't even get this apart. Okay, so the rest of the chariot went together pretty easy, as did the horses. And I've gone and found this 100 by 50 base, just 2mm MDF, like a lot of my army uses. And that's going to be quite cool. Just test fitting the wheels. The whole thing is kind of fragile. I think I've snapped a little bit of the underframe already, so I'm being really careful with it now. So yeah, next part is going to be at the driver. So we've got reins that go from the driver's hands into these 4 little sections on there, which is going to be fun. And then they should line up on there. So I can get all this cleaned up. Okay, so I got those little reins in and on his wrists, and I think I've got that lined up quite well. He has got 2 little pegs on the bottom of his feet. I've not glued him on there yet. I'm going to wait until this sets nicely. And we can get all that lined up, and then I'll glue him down there. I might even pop those pins back off his feet just so I can stick him anywhere on this wicker. And then there's some more bits of reins. Now I only ended up, because of the damage, with 3 of these. I might go and check the envelope, see if I can find the 4th one. And then these go from the horses' mouths to each of those 4 again, which is going to be even faffier. So for that I'm going to need all the wheels on, I need it all stuck down. While that's setting, I'm thinking about the rider. I think for this guy in the front, I might give him this human head here. I think that's going to work alright. They actually scale alright, they're just a slightly different style. For the rider, annoyingly I don't have any more human infantry bodies left. So yeah, the ones that came in the box are this druid and this woman. The druid I'm probably going to build up as a character on foot anyway, I think. He's kind of cool. But I have got this barbarian body, which I might go for. I think that's going to look kind of cool. Might give him one of the cavalry champion helmet. So I've been using this style helmet throughout my army, so that should help tie that in. And then the cavalry champion axe arm raised should give some cool height and thing to the model. And while we're looking at the human cavalry sprue, we might as well add, I don't know, the spear's pretty good though. Or maybe I'll go with the spear. I think I might grab a couple of these, and I might look at using these to decorate the sides of the chariot. To see how it all fits with the wheels and everything. But once again, that'll be something that'll tie this in. I can paint them in the colour scheme of the army. And once again, that's something that could help tie it all in. I'm just going to grab another couple of these spears, because I've got another little idea. I might try and put them on the back, facing back like this. Okay, I'm getting somewhere now. I've glued the horses onto the crossbar. Nothing's glued to the base yet, but what I have decided to do is go for a little thin sheet of card under the edge there, bring the wheels up just a fraction of a mil, well actually just a whole mil. Just think that looks a little bit better. I'm just making sure I've got all the plastic parts all neatly in place before we stick any super glue and get these plastic parts glued down to the wood. I went for those spears like I said on the back, got the human head, tie it in with the units, and then we've got this barbarian body with the base clipped away, and then human cavalry parts all around. And what I've done here is I've put plenty of plastic glue on this, pulled the arm out sideways, and just forced a little bit of spare plastic and some extra glue in there to sort of semi-fill that gap. I'll go back in with a little bit of green stuff and finish that. Because he's got all this fur around here, some of which I've had to chop away to get his helmet in easily. It'd be easy just to sort of sculpt that back in as a little bit of fur. Okay, so one of the reasons why I end up working on multiple projects at once is things like this. I've just gone round with the last of this half-dead tube of wood filler, and I've done a bunch of projects. So here is Van der Brasse's horse, all built up, like I said. I think that's working really nice. I've also done the rest of the horse archers, some halflings, and of course this chariot. Very thin layer on this one. I might still build up in a couple more places. I said I'd just use a little cocktail stick here, just smear this around. You won't really see the texture of this on the final model. It's just so when we put the sand on, there's no obvious bumps between the sort of integral bases on things like the horse and the one I kind of made out of a bit of plasticide for the wheels and the MDF. I've also done the green stuff on the driver where I thought it was needed, so a little bit of fur around the back of the collar there and then under his arm. Okay, we've got an undercoat on there, but annoyingly I just snapped one of the spears off. Really hacked up about that. But we're going to start the paint job more or less now anyway. I'll repair that spear as we go. We're going to start like I do so many paint jobs with a nice big paintbrush and some Rhinox hide. And I'm going to put this pretty much everywhere. So the horses, I'm going to make them a nice chestnut colour hopefully. The carriage is all going to be wood. I'm just going to do that in my normal wood colours, even the wickery bits and things. I think that'll work. I think we'll start with basically, yeah, and the base are all going to be Rhinox hide to start with. Okay, I've repaired that spear. I gave it a quick dusting with spray and I've painted pretty much everything Rhinox hide. I watered that down quite a bit so it'd go in all the sand and get in all the little nooks and crannies. It's still quite a nice coat. It's fine for the undercoat, but I'm going to have to let it dry for a few hours before I can do much more with this, I think. I've also started work on the driver using a relatively big brush. I've got a bunch of yellow down. This was just to start this guy off, and then I'm going to sort of copy the scheme I did on the King's Guard on this guy. Even though he's wearing like the barbarian sort of gear, I'm kind of just going to go with that same theme, just paint him up with like that, and hopefully that'll tie him into the army quite nicely. So I've continued blocking out his colours in line with the rest of the army, and I think he is looking pretty cool, and he'll definitely fit in when he's finished. The chariot, I've mostly just gone over this with some Idrim flesh and a bit of Zandri dust, so my normal wood recipes, but with a little bit more Zandri dust in the centres of the wicker parts. And I've used the Zandri dust to draw on some like wood grains on some of these bits. Still need to do the same up the spears. The horses, these are mostly just Rhinox hide and Bungman's glow, and then I've done the manes in black with a little bit of Bungman's glow to bring out the colours. What I'm doing is I'm currently getting everything ready, so I'm going to do all these reins and stuff now in a leather colour, and I'll work on a couple of other bits, and obviously the shields are going to be the same as the shields on my other units, and the driver will have the same colours as the passenger. But what I'm going to try and do now is I'm trying to get everything to a point where I can do a brown wash, and I'll get the whole thing at once rather than just doing a little bit brown wash, doing a little bit brown wash. Some way to go yet. Okay, so once all the base colours are down, I did the wash, and I've done all the yellows and greens, and I'm fairly happy with it. But I don't like what the wash did to the horses. I wasn't intending on washing the horses. I was just too messy, and then I decided to just cover them all. I'd rather have left them the colour they were. I quite like the sort of yellowier brown that they've gone, but not on their cream patches, so I'll have to repaint those. That shouldn't take too long. Same with this guy. It's all the same colours I used on my halflings and King's Guard and everything. They're all basically the same colour schemes. Some of the final details are going to involve things like this sort of super bright silver. So helmets and spear tips and everything have been painted a sort of gunmetal colour and then given a black wash to really sort of darken them down and get into all the details. So now I've got this super bright silver. And I'm just going to try and pick out the very highlights, do some like edge highlights. I need some new brushes for metallics though. This brush is pretty much dead. And actually I've just gone over and did a real general dry brush to sort of soften down some of those highlights just to make it look a bit more natural. Yeah, fairly happy with that. Okay, still a few highlights. I still need to highlight her trousers, but I'm happy I've got to a point where I'm going to attach the two bits together now because I can't find that paint to highlight the trousers at the moment. So this guy was just pinned into this cork. I'm going to check how he fits. So because of the wicker base on there, I can actually just put the foot pin through one of those holes. That's actually worked quite nicely. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the way the chariots come out. I think all the painting is done now. So I relightened those patches. I've gone just in the last few highlights. I'm pretty happy with it. I really like the way that it looks kind of like something out of the book. You know, it's It's very Oathmarky, it's got that style. So yeah, just need to do the basing. And as ever, we start with some tufts and flowers. And then we have it finished off with all the flock and foam that I normally go for. Looking nice and lush. Obviously the areas of grass will darken down as the glue dries. And actually, I wasn't expecting this to turn out. And that's all for this video. Please let me know what you thought down in the comments. Maybe subscribe for more. And as ever, thanks for watching. Bye.